Anthropic had just introduced Claude 4, which is a huge step up from their 3.7 Sonnet model. They said today we're introducing the next generation of Claude models, Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4. They said this is setting a new standard for coding, advanced reasoning, and AI agents. They said Claude Opus is the world's best coding model with sustained performance on complex, long-running task and agent workflows. Claude Sonnet 4 is a significant upgrade to Claude Sonnet 3.7, delivering superior coding and reasoning while responding more precisely to your instructions. And this is like a huge thing because Claude has kind of been more slower in development. I think OpenAI and Gemini has been releasing just way more models and just updates to their models. We had Gemini 2.0, now we have Gemini 2.5 Pro, Flash. Before Claude even got to 4, they had released Claude Sonnet 3.7. And honestly, I actually prefer Claude 3.7, at least in the beginning days, versus the Geminis and the OpenAIs and Perplexities. I just preferred it better. I thought it gave better feel to code as well as when it even came to writing. But ChatGPT and Gemini just have more free stuff, as well as they have more features to them that Claude just doesn't have. Claude doesn't have a AI voice model, nor do they have image generator. But what Claude really is best at, I think, is being a good large language model. They said alongside the models, they're also announcing extended thinking with tools. So both models can use tools like web search during extended thinking, allowing Claude to alternate between reasoning and tool use to improve responses. So the good thing about Claude model is basically it's like a hybrid model. It knows when to give you like a short response and it knows when to give you a more longer response. Or I guess knowing isn't really the appropriate thing to say. It kind of infers and assumes it knows when is the best time to use this model. We see this in Gemini 2.5 Flash is kind of like that, but I would say that Claude Opus and Sonnet 4 is probably just better at it. It's a new model capabilities. Both models can use tools in parallel, follow instructions more precisely, and when given access to local files, developers demonstrate significant improved memory capabilities, extracting and saving key facts to maintain continuity and build tactic knowledge over time, which is good. I think what's good about these models is that they're understanding what you're asking it to do, and you can come back to talk to it again, and it can pick off where you left off better. It's like talking to a person. If you call somebody yesterday and you had a conversation, the next day you would expect them to at least remember the last conversation. Let's say you had a friend that you haven't even talked to in years, they would still remember some key highlight things that happened throughout their life with you. And so that's kind of what's happening now. It's not like you have a super smart friend but it has amnesia. But every day you come back and you talk to them, but they don't really remember anything y'all did or said previously. So that's really important. And they said Claude Code is now generally available. After receiving extensive positive feedback during their research preview, they extended how developers can collaborate with Claude. Claude Code now supports background tasks via GitHub Actions and native integration with VS Code in JetBrains, displaying edit directly into your files for seamless pair programming. VS Code, for people who aren't maybe programmers, VS Code is probably the biggest, if not the default, code editor. It's called it stands for Integrated Developer Environment, but that's where software engineers write a lot of their code. I am a developer and I write my code in VS Code. So it being directly integrated in VS Code helps a lot because everybody doesn't want to use stuff like Windsurf to, well, have AI integrated. Sometimes they just want to have their own kind of direct link to these models. They say they also have new API capabilities where now Anthropic API that has enabled developers to build more powerful AI agents. Claude 4 and Claude 4 Sonnet are also now available throughout the API. It says Claude Opus 4 and Sonnet are hybrid models offering two modes, near instant responses and extended thinking for deeper reasoning. The Pro, Max Team, and Enterprise Claude plan include both models and extended thinking, with Sonnet 4 also available for free users. So if you want the Opus, which is their biggest model they have to date, you have to be a part of their paid tier. But Sonnet is a part of their paid tier, and there's more you can do with Sonnet and Opus on the paid tier, but it's also available for free, of course limitedly, where you can use it for free for different tasks, which I may be trying out Sonnet. because they say Sonnet actually gets some comparable results as Opus, but of course Opus is just better. They say both models are available in Anthropic API, Amazon Bedrock, and Google's Cloud Vertex AI. They said pricing remains consistent with previous Opus and Sonnet models. Opus 4 at 50/75 per million token input output, and Sonnet 4 at $3 to $15. So you see the difference in the models. Sonnet is $3 at the cheapest and 15 at the high end. Well, not in on the cheapest. It's $3 for input per million token and $15 output per million token. So Sonnet's output is literally the input for Opus, so per million token, of course. So if you're on a budget and you still want really good results, Claude Sonnet 4 may be, well, where you should be heading at. They said Claude 4 Opus is their most powerful model yet and the best coding model in the world, leading on Sweetbench at 72.5% and Terminal Bench at 43.2%. It delivers sustained performance on long-running tasks that requires focus, effort, and thousands of steps with the ability to work constantly for several hours, dramatically outperforming all Sonnet models and significantly expanding what AI agents can accomplish, which is great. So that means AI tasks can do things that it would take humans hours to do, which I would argue they probably have been doing that, especially in the coding space. Sometimes just even getting a class or a few methods out can take a few hours. So it's been doing that, but I think these are more like procedural tasks. Maybe write a code, submit it to GitHub, pull request, get it reviewed, fix the bug, you know what I'm saying? One of those type of things, which is still pretty good. That Claude Opus excels in coding and complex problem solving. Powerful frontier agent products. Cursor calls it state of the art, and they just are talking about how everybody's just so happy about it. If you look at the benchmarks down here, you see that Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 on the software engineer, the Sweetbench that they're talking about earlier, you see that Opus 4 has 72% and then Sonnet has 72.7%, which is actually kind of interesting. I think the graph where you see the shaded line at, and then you see the top of the graph, I think that's the difference between maybe the instant responses versus the thinking responses, where you see overall Opus 4 has 79%. And Sonnet 4 has 80%. Yeah, because I think that's because with the parallel test time compute. So I think that's why there's a different shades in some of the percentages, why Claude has two different percentages. But even at the lowest end, it still beats out Gemini 2.5 Pro. And that's the 0506 version, which is the most recent Gemini 2.5 Pro. So it still beats that out by a good percentage. And the only other models that's coming close is the 03 and the Codex that was just released by OpenAI. Looking at the other graphs, we see that with Sweetbench, agentic terminal coding, gradual level reasoning, agentic tool use, and all the other ones, you see that Claude is doing really well with all of these. But I think we may have to get outside of these benchmarks. I think the benchmarks are a good thing, and I'm glad that we have them. But even they said that we need more hands-on experiences to validate this stuff. It needs to be more like a people's champ type of benchmark than it is like these standardized benchmarks that we know, because we've seen that Llama had basically trained some of their models to do good on these benchmarks. And they also did something that was pretty cool to some people. They have this Pokemon game where it basically had a navigation sheet for Pokemon, where it was saying how you should navigate within Pokemon. So they said when given access to local files, Claude Opus 4 records key information to help improve its gameplay. The notes depicted above are real notes taken by Opus 4 while playing Pokemon. So they said navigation guide, getting unstuck protocol. Try max 5 attempts with the same approach. If stuck, try opposite approach. And 3 for indoor navigation, go to opposite side of the room. 4 change Y coordinates when horizontal movement fails. Document fail approaches to avoid repeating. See, so it's definitely like how you think, but you wouldn't necessarily put in those words. You probably wouldn't even put it in words at all. It'd just be like a reaction, I would say. But no, this is all pretty good, and I think it kind of got overshadowed with Google Keynote and all the things that they were releasing there. But it's still cool to see that Claude 4 is out, because I do like the competition with Perplexity, Gemini, Claude, and OpenAI and ChatGPT and all that. I like all this competition here in America. I also kind of don't mind the DeepSeeks of the world, the Alibaba model really competing to just push the frontier forward, closed source and open source. So we'll definitely see how well everything goes in the future. If you want to keep up to date with the latest AI news, you should definitely like and subscribe. With that being said, your boy Dex9 Dexter out.